Good afternoon, Rotary Club of Flint. Today is a momentous day. It's November 4th, Friday. It is officially the first day that I've worn jeans to a Rotary meeting as president. So we had a Blake tour this morning at work, and work clothes were not entirely suitable for that. So today is, of course, momentous for other reasons. It is National Love Your Lawyer Day. So if you haven't sent your lawyer any love lately, apparently this is the day to do it. It's also National Easy Bake Oven Day and Fountain Pen Day. And if you believe it, it's also National Skeptics Day. Isn't it the truth, right? Okay, let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Thank you. And as Rotarians, we also try to live by the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all? Will it feel good? Will it be beneficial to all? Thank you. And November is also, I wanted to note that this is Native American Heritage Month. And so what you see here is an image of a turtle, and it's part of the Anishinaabe belief system that this part of the world is actually the heart of Turtle Island. Near the Straits of Mackinac is kind of the origins of the world. And so the turtle is really important because the Anishinaabe believes that at the beginning of the world, it was all water. And so it was actually, I think, a muskrat that had to swim way down to the depths and bring up a mouthful of mud. And they needed some place to put it. So they put it right there on the turtle's back. And so I went to the Sloan Museum with my kids this weekend, and they have a whole new area of the museum there, including part that focuses on Anishinaabe culture. And they had a storyteller recording there, and it shared that actually the origin of the word Michigan comes from the Anishinaabe language meaning turtle. So we here are the turtle right in Turtle Island. So something to think about. We have the pleasure today that we're going to hear from two dynamic folks from the University of Michigan Flint Archive, Callum and Jennifer. And before we do that, though, we're going to have an inspirational message. And I'd like to invite up Lynn Horan. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Well, the last time I was up here, it was to tell a joke. And I'd much rather be telling a joke than talking about what I'm going to talk about today, which is, as we all know, next Tuesday is election day. And I don't know if it's true because I did miss last week's meeting, unfortunately, but I've heard that Michigan's political campaigns for 2022 are the costliest of all 50 states. And it certainly seems that way because every day I receive emails and text messages and snail mail, and I'm bombarded with television ads expressing the anger and hostility so prevalent in our country today. And now with November 8th quickly approaching, there's even talk of political violence. So today I'm offering a prayer for our country. I think we need all the blessings that we can get. So I'm asking for blessings for our country, for our government, and for our leaders and advisors, and for all who exercise just and rightful authority. Give them insight that they may administer all affairs of state fairly, that peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom may dwell in our midst. Bless all the inhabitants of our land. Make citizens of all races and creeds form a common bond in true harmony, to banish hatred and bigotry, and to safeguard the ideals and free institutions that are, and we pray, will remain the pride and glory of our country. May we be an influence for good throughout the world, uniting all people in peace and freedom, helping them to fulfill the vision of the prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynn. May it be so. And with that, please enjoy your lunch. We'll be back shortly. All right, Rotarians, welcome back. You're of course welcome to continue eating, but we are going to go ahead and start with the program part of our meeting today. So I have a few different announcements that we have.
Elizabeth, there's a question about whether the microphone is working.
Now it is. Thank you. Feedback is a beautiful thing.
What?
All right, thank you for that. So as we start the business portion of our meeting, we have some announcements. I got a few that I'm going to share, and then we have a couple from the floor as well. We also are going to have a special presentation today, I do believe. I think I saw Howard here early, yes indeed. So we will be on a very special presentation today. And then of course, we'll do our 50-50 and welcoming guests and all that. So I wanted to start off just pointing out, if there were any of you who were perhaps not present in the room last week, but are here today, that we are in the process of doing a membership survey. This is something we've talked about a couple of times before, but it's really important that if you haven't already completed your member survey, so please do so. You're welcome to fill it out and leave it on your table. If you would prefer to have some time to do it on your own, it was also part of your email message for this week. So you can take a look at your email. It's basically a PDF form where you can open it, click your responses or type any text, and then you can just save it and email it back to me. And that way we will be able to record your responses. The plan is that this survey, which really focuses on the frequency, the day, the style of meeting that we might be looking at, to give your input so that as we look at where to go for the next Rotary year, like the year that starts in July, that we can have a good sense about what the needs are of all of you and to try to make sure that we're offering something that best meets your needs. So if you speak up by filling out your survey, then we can have the benefit of your insight. And the more folks we can get to be doing that, the really the better position that we're going to be to make sure that we're meeting the collective needs. And I will also share that what we're planning to do is not as the board to just like go off in a hidey hole someplace and look at all these things, but we're going to synthesize the responses that we get and share that back with the whole club. We're actually going to devote one of our meetings in December for that purpose and run it almost like a workshop, because we want your help and insight to interpret and understand this and help that guide the process moving forward. So if you've got questions about that, you can talk to me, you can talk to Anne Marie. Joe Martin has also been involved with this. So let us know how we can best serve you. Another thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is something that I was really excited to see that the district is offering, Rotary Leadership Institute 1. So for those of you who don't know, RLI, as it's often called, is an opportunity to learn more about Rotary, yes, but also to work on developing leadership skills that can be applicable to you, whether you're in Rotary, maybe thinking about wanting to join a committee in Rotary, or maybe it's just something that you want to get for your professional life. And so this is available. It's going to be offered over Zoom on 2 Friday evenings with expectation that you attend both of them. Diane Chandler is the past district governor. She's the one who's handling registration. So this also is in your weekly email if you'd like to follow up by registering with her. The cost is very nominal, $16, but that there's a possibility that the club can help you cover that or fully cover that. Just please connect with me or Amy Vanderfoot if you would like more information. And now I am really privileged and extremely proud to be able to make a dual presentation for both a Paul Harris Fellow and a Jack Kennedy Fellow. So as we all know as Rotarians, Paul Harris was the founder of Rotary. That he formed Rotary with 3 business partners in Chicago back in 1905. And the fellowship, Paul Harris Fellowship, was established in his honor to express appreciation for a contribution of $1,000 all at once or over time by a Rotarian. And so that's been our tradition in Rotary since 1957. And of course, the Rotary Foundation supports a variety of projects locally and internationally, addressing things such as clean water, maternal child health, immunization, certainly polio eradication, housing, and a variety of other things, peace building. And those initiatives have real and meaningful impact in the lives of people around the globe. These activities are funded and implemented by Rotarians. And so the Paul Harris Fellow is really a special designation in honor of the exceptional gifts that Rotarians make towards these efforts, and the Rotary Foundation is really only able to do its work when we as Rotarians do ours. Similarly, the Jack Hamady Fellowship is named for Jack Hamady, whose given name is actually Ammon Jack Hamady, and I know that Hal Flynn in the past has shared some stories about how he came to take on that name Jack. That apparently he was teased in school by actually one of his teachers because he introduced himself with a name that was unfamiliar to her ear. And so he took on Jack, this idea of Jack Dempsey, and was a boxer, tough, and wasn't going to be challenged. Yes, it's on. Okay, please do. I'm in. Thank you for that correction. Yes, come on. You want to?
One time, was to write paper, and he signed, AMEN.
Yes.
So the teacher said that, gave him a lecture about how serious it is that some joker in the class signed his name Amen. So he went home, looked up the simplest name that nobody would ever confuse, that came up with Jack.
Came up with Jack. Thank you for that on the story and the pronunciation. Because for me, one of the things that hearing that kind of story now, I mean, I could certainly relate with, being a kid in the classroom and you don't want to do anything to make you stand up. Certainly when you've got a teacher who makes a joke of it. But also, how serious and important our names are. And I wonder what we as Rotarians could do to create a world where everybody can feel fully loved and embraced with their name as they chose to say it. So thank you for that deepening of the story. So we have the Jack Hamady Fellowship. Now, he wasn't the founder of the Rotary Club of Flint. He was certainly a very important member of it. But the club back in 1994 decided to name this in his honor for contributions of $1,000 or more over, all at once or over a span of years to the local Rotary Endowment Fund. And they chose to honor him with that because he really embodied Rotary. His commitment to service above self, his consistency in living the four-way test, from what I hear, every interaction that he had, that he was a Mr. Rotary for sure. And many of you in the room perhaps had the honor of knowing him, and I didn't have that chance myself. So I love the stories because that's part of how we carry his legacy forward. And so also presenting these tributes to our Jack Hamady Fellowship, we could honor that legacy as well. So today, this Flint Rotary Charitable Fund started with 10 Rotarians, each chipping in $1,000. So it started off at $10,000. And today, many of the folks in this room, as well as generations of folks that came before, have been part of building that endowment. And today it stands at more than $500,000. which allows us to do a lot of good in our community for a really long time. And so I would be remiss if I didn't point out the opportunities we haven't yet decided to give to the local Flint Rotary Charitable Endowment Fund, but that's an opportunity. Because those dollars do go directly into our grant making that we give locally that supports a variety of projects, whether it's the work of the Flint Development Center to bring early childhood resources to that, or kayak launches on the Flint River, or a variety of things to just make life better for folks who are near Flint. So that's enough of a spiel for me because really it comes down to honoring one person today who has given sizable gifts in both of these areas, and that is Howard Downey. Howard, come on up. We're right there is A-OK. Howard, your contribution to the Rotary Foundation of Rotary International, as well as to our local foundation, is allaying suffering, improving conditions, and making a real difference in the lives of people around the world. These are truly selfless actions. And for that, you have my gratitude as an officer of the Rotary Club of Flint, as well as the gratitude of the room. And I invite the room to stand and applaud. Your medal.
Wow.
Your certificate. And your jackhammer certificate too. So may those always remind you of the difference you made.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, and so going from one delightful thing to the next, I want to invite up is Fred in the room. Don't tell me he made off with a bucket of raffles. No. He would never do that. He's a Rotarian. All right, come on up, Fred. You've got some Firebird info out here.
I've got flag and several. First of all, excuse me. Thank you.
Hey, Fred, we got some our newest member didn't know how to do this here. We need to add these.
Put them on top.
So Fred is making his way out here. After that.
First of all, President, start.
The mics, the folks, the room and on can hear you.
They'll hear me. They'll hear you too. Since Firebird Day is coming, I'll give you the privilege. Would you touch and ring the sacred bell?
The sacred Firebird bell. This is like a life achievement right here. You ready?
Give it to it. Right. Now I'm gonna show you a trick real quick before we get to our speaker. If you use the back, you get it. And if the person in the back is moving complaints a little bit, says that's too loud. He was doing the job.
Doing the job well, if it's too loud.
So we are working on that. We have some schedules that we will pass out. I'm going to be talking to.
Firebird schedule too.
Yes, well, I'm not gonna pass out Kitchener Ranger schedules, you know. So we are working on that, to getting a good day at one of the games. And if anybody's got a particular team they want driven into the dust, let us know, please. Those are the best. And now I need an honest.
Not Jerry.
Hey. I can't think of a more honest person.
Well, Victor, are you an honest guy?
Well, if you ask my mother, she'd say so, yeah.
Would you help us, please?
All right, Mr. George is coming up to stir the pot.
Just stir the pot. Now, notice, and neutral member, you carefully stir the pot. Would you pull out the third place, winner?
Third place,
Yeah.
third place coming up.
Let me look, I'll help you.
Two of them. That's third place.
Would you
All
like to?
right, I can read it.
Yes.
Third place is 4072. Oh, yes. Terrific.
And they always say that I don't let suckers, excuse me, that I don't let guests win. Now, would you care to stir?
Second.
Might be your chance.
That's the place. Mine's in there somewhere.
It's a crumpled up one. 84016. Hey, that's mine.
Congratulations.
This I did.
Who's first place? That would have been 2 hours.
Okay, now, this is what, the winner?
This is the big one,
Big one.
For all the marbles.
sort of like a joke.
Kind of hard to hang on to.
Oh, there's 2 of them.
So,
Nice try. All right, 84069. All right, congratulations.
Thank you very much. And because of your, would you like to ring your bell again?
All right, so you said the back end is the loud one?
Yes.
I think you're right.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right,
All right.
and so these are the distribute.
I'll put them on next week.
Great. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you very much, Fred and Victor, for that assist. So next up, I would like to invite Rob Jewell to come up in honor of an important recognition.
thank you.
Thank you, President Elizabeth. Next Friday. Next Friday. Next Friday. 11th hour, 11th day, 11th month. Marked the end of World War I. Armistice Day evolved to acknowledge those that had served. 1954 marked the day as Veterans Day to recognize those who have served. Not to be confused with Memorial Day, which honors those who have died in service. And not to be confused with Armed Forces Day, which recognizes those currently serving. Next Friday, our nation observes Veterans Day, a day of acknowledgement and recognition for those who have served our country, for those who have taken an oath to defend our nation against enemies, both foreign and domestic. For those who have stepped forward with the willingness to place themselves in harm's way to ensure the democratic principles of our society. For the freedom of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it is only fitting, as in our tradition, that those amongst us as fellow Rotarians who have fulfilled the belief of service above self be honored. Let us take a few moments to applaud our fellow Rotarian veterans and their branch of service. When I call your branch of service, please stand, if by Zoom, to be recognized. Those who serve in the Army. Let's not forget the Army Air Corps. Air Force. The Navy. Let us not forget the National Maritime Service, otherwise known as NISH. All right, the Jack. Into the Marine Corps. And for those who may not be aware, that next week on Thursday, November the 10th, is the 247th anniversary of the establishment of the Marine Corps. Coast Guard. Couple of other areas that people are not necessarily familiar with is the U.S. Public Health Service and Uniform Services, which provides leadership and support to public health programs. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, their Commission Officer Corps. The Space Force. Additionally, are those who serve with our intelligence community. And as in the past, due to national security reasons and appropriate NDA, we understand if they wish to remain anonymous. So as former President John Kennedy noted, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. So next week, use Friday as a day of appreciation for those who have served. Join me, if you please stand with your glass, with a salute to our veterans. Thank you for your commitment to service above self. Thank you.
All right, and Rob's not going, yes, yes, yes.
Quick reminder, we don't have a meeting next Friday.
Correct. And so we'll cover that at the end of the meeting, but be thinking about whether you might want to join us at the White House.
And I mentioned one other report at Alcoa.
Merchant Marine.
And it wasn't good enough for the Merchant. So it needs to be removed.
So for those on Zoom, Fred Hines was just sharing that Alcoa had been part of the Merchant Marines, which did not prevent him from also getting drafted then into Korea. Thank you. I know a few of you had mentioned announcements. I haven't forgotten you. We'll get to those in a second.
Dominic? As Dominic is coming up, the game occurred last week.
What was the game last week?
At the Big House. Dominic and I, his fellow Rotarians, yes, had a little discussion. We decided to go back in history. To start off with, the players came through the tunnel out to the field. And on the field, the game was held.
What was the game?
And then players went back through the tunnel. For some strange reason, the tunnel has become a talking point. So we're going to kind of share a couple of commentaries. From my perspective, each person is responsible for their own behavior, as well as the consequences of that behavior. And there's a question of understanding and practicing sportsmanship. Most importantly for us as Rotarians is realizing the role of the forward.
Absolutely. We agree with that. I know there's some other Spartans in the room, and I think we all agree with that, what was demonstrated after the game was not what we in Spartan Nation, the attitude or the characteristics that we portray. We know our school, our team are holding those folks accountable. But the other thing, I think the thing that wasn't highlighted, that wasn't spotlighted during the game, we have a big rivalry between these two schools. We see that on and off the field. But what wasn't highlighted was during halftime when the Michigan State University marching band and the Michigan marching band performed together, as they do every year without incident in partnership, and it's something they do throughout the year, other activities as well. Because that's what the true spirit of the rivalry is.
One of the things that's important to remember that when the game started, we should applaud MSU for taking the lead. At the
Happened at one
beginning.
point.
At the beginning, okay? And then for some strange reason, things kind of progressed appropriately and so forth. So the thing that's of most important is the fact that the game was held, the competition was held, and that the rivalry, is it still there? Yes, it is. And I think it's only appropriate since came to the big house and provided the Wolverines, and as a disclaimer, these are our personal commentaries, okay? We want to acknowledge and express our appreciation for providing the competition, allowing us another win. Thank you.
And the one other thing that I'll add in the spirit of the rivalry, but also the partnership off the field, we know both of our schools being Big Ten research institutions, some of the great work that they're doing. Just a personal story of a close friend of mine, whose wife is suffering from cancer and is being treated at the University of Michigan Hospital, and is being treated with a drug and medicine that was created at Michigan State University's labs by Michigan State University doctors. That is the true spirit of what these two schools are.
Thank you. One quick item regarding the tunnel, is another tunnel occurring Tuesday. This campaign comes down to the tunnel, election's gonna be held. There's a lot of it.
All right, may we all be well behaved in this.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I want to move this next part along, because I want to make sure we have adequate time to hear from our guest speakers. So we had a couple of requests for some announcements from the floor. Lynn, I think you wanted me to share that tomorrow is First Frost at FIA. And if people are interested in going, what should they do?
It's tomorrow and Sunday, tomorrow at 10, Sunday at 11, and it's being held at the Cultural Center Academy.
All right.
So if you haven't had a chance to see it in school, it's a great chance to see it. We have 45 artists from all over Michigan mostly, and it's a great chance to start on your holiday
All
shopping.
right, so First Frost Art Fair tomorrow at 10 a.m., Sunday at 11, and it's at the Cultural Center Academy. Great. Jack, on Zoom, I know that you wanted to share that we have the economic forum. It's going to be December 9th and is it at the North Bank Center again?
Thank you, President Elizabeth. Can the audience hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yes, the Economic Forum, this will be the 15th iteration. We do it annually. So it'll be our 15th Economic Forum between the School of Management and the Rotarian Club. We will be back live. We've had a couple of years worth of Zooming. Now we're back live at the North Bank. For those of you who remember that we used to meet there. So November 9th, we'll meet at the North Bank. That's where the meeting will be held. We will have a flyer out very shortly. The flyer will include a map, should you not be familiar with North Bank. And it also, the flyer should include the fact that parking is free in the structure next to the North Bank. You never know what sort of weather you're going to get on December 9th. So the parking structure is convenient, and you can really potentially be able to move between the buildings without getting walking on ice or snow. We will also be Zooming. So again, depending on the weather, if you can't attend live at the North Bank, we'll also have Zoom capability, and that will be on the flyer. It will be a different Zoom connection than the Zoom number that we usually use. So it'll be a Zoom associated with the event itself. Thank you in advance for attending. You know, we've had some very good speakers. This will be 15 years worth. And also we will have a sound system that will accommodate the peculiarities of that very large room. Okay, that will aid in terms of people not having any spots that don't have audio.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Jack, for putting that together.
Thank
And
you,
we'll be sure to
Elizabeth.
get more information in your email coming up. Okay, one last quick announcement, like a 30-second announcement, Joyce?
Salvation Army, again, I'm joined Joyce Army, her Elf Army, and all of the elf money and for the pins, and I have them with me. They're $20 each, and you can write a check, you can give me cash, or I have a QR code, you can use your credit card. I'll have them every week, but I just appreciate, we are anticipating 1,500 children that will benefit from your $20 donation. So,
Thank you. So if you want to donate towards the Salvation Army campaign and join Joy's Army, that's $20, and she'd be happy to give you the button. All right, without any further ado, we're going to bring up Ellen Brothers.
Good afternoon. It's my honor today to introduce our speakers. We're going to be talking about the Thompson Library at the University of Michigan Flint. The library is really truly a point of pride of our campus. It's the heart of our campus, and it's where all students can access and enhance their learning, and they're going to share more about that. So I want to introduce Colin Carr, who's been the archivist for the Genesee Historical Collections Center for the last 4 years. During that time, they expanded collections, reorganized the archive, and brought new life to the center through community outreach. Their efforts were recently recognized university-wide for the University Library Recognition Award. Colin lives in Flint with her partner and daughter and is expecting. Congratulations. And then also Jennifer Dean is here. She joined the U of M Flint Library as the director in March of 2022. She's held the library leadership, she's held library leadership positions in public, cooperative, and academic libraries, and previously served as the Dean of Libraries and Instructional Technology at the University of Detroit Mercy. In addition to her library education, she holds a PhD in higher adult and lifelong education and degrees in bassoon. She lives in Lapeer with her husband, dog, and cat. Yay. So I'd like to welcome you up, and we're eager to hear about you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Well, first of all, I'll just say thank you, President Elizabeth. Thank you, Ellen, for inviting us. Thank you, Colin, for being a partner in this presentation. And thank you to all of you. My father, Jimmy Dean, was a Rotarian in Hillman and Alpena. So it really feels like home coming to the Rotary meeting. He hosted Rotary exchange students. He was a Paul Harris Fellow, really important to him. And I remember when I attended, studied music, my bassoon life, it was at Northwestern in Evanston, and we were at one Rotary Plaza. We were walking around downtown, and my dad was like, "Oh my gosh, this is like where I've never been there." So really wonderful to be here with all of you, and just thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Ellen. So I know your time's valuable. I'll jump right in. I'm going to talk a little bit about the library and maybe a little bit about the archives, but I'm going to leave most of the archives to my colleague Ellen. So we've talked a little bit about. We were talking with Ellen about what might be interesting for people to know, because I imagine you have more experience in this area than I do. And so I'm thinking, what might they know and not know? So we talked a little bit about how we might look back and look forward. What's some history of the library? Where are we going? And the library and the archives together. As you see, the Francis Wilson Thompson Library and then the Genesee Historical Collections Center. And we always say library and archives, or the archives or the library. I love that we're doing both because they're two really important parts of our organization. So I wanted to start a little bit. Raise your hands. When you think library, what do you think first? Is it books? Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm of that age. The library is books to me. Even being a librarian and knowing that there's, so much that we do, I think books. And of course, we think and we know that we are connected, caring people, and that libraries ultimately are a place to create community. People come to engage with ideas, to engage with each other, they might engage with themselves if they're just finding a place to be. Still, everyone really thinks that we're books, 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 and we are. We love our books. They're important. But the reason I mention it is because sometimes I feel like that can get in the way of people who think, do we still need libraries? What do you all do? You know, do you read all day? We do some reading, and there are times we all are thinking it's an interesting time to be alive. What's our goal? But there's a lot we do, and I really think for community hubs, whatever sort of library we are, like public libraries or community college libraries, academic libraries, and then the archives are part of that as well, that creating community and preserving our history. So let's talk about our academic library, since that's what we came to hear about today. So the building itself is only 30 years old, but it's a very classic library. If you've been in, it's very traditional, a lot of wood. We still have a very large book collection, of course, collections in the archives. It was originally the building, the library, an idea was shared between the community college and the university. And I always love, Ellen has been a great source of like helping me understand some of the history with her experience here in Flint. This idea that we had when the Riverfront campus was created, it was that shared building. She said, we just called it the crowd. It was very utilitarian. Like, this is what happened in this building, and that's where the library was. So the library was really more of an idea, I guess. I brought these couple of books with me, and they both, like, I'm thinking, there's an update into these, but they're both histories about the university. And there's a lot of talk in there about how, wow, how could there be a university, a public university, especially a University of Michigan University, that doesn't have a library? So it was just a tremendous achievement when the library that we have now, the Thompson Library and Archives, were opened in 1994. And of course, generous donors helped that happen. Francis Wilson Thompson, let's see, and Colin knows more about this than I do, but is related to, I'm gonna let you cover this part. Crapo, right? Government Crapo?
Billy Grant. I
Thank
mean, they're all.
you. Yeah, see, I need to spend some time in our archives, getting my history right. But really wonderful members of the community and made this happen along with many other donors. So it's a real honor to have the library named for members of the community and real pillars of the state. So building is really important. You think library, you think books, and then later you probably think library building, go into the library. But so much of what we do now is virtual in the library, in the archives. It's like you all have moved online. It's funny, people were like, how are you doing, with the pandemic? I mean, all the other things about the pandemic aside, but it's like, we've been ready for years. We've had ebooks for years, we've had databases, we've been trying to engage with people over chat and to answer reference questions. So for us, that piece, of course, that little piece of the pandemic wasn't so difficult. It was just a matter of thinking, rethinking and reframing and recommunicating, like, we're open, we are here, our librarians are here, our archivists are here. So we use the term high flex and hybrid. Those are hybrid. Those are higher ed terms. Hybrid course is something where it's meant to be a mix of online and in person. High flex is full philosophy, but the way we use it in higher ed is this idea that, especially during COVID, but really you can think anytime, people need flexibility in their lives. So faculty design their courses. Okay, one day you're in person. Oh, you need to be online the next one because maybe you tested positive. All right, we can accommodate you. Kind of a lot of work for faculty, kind of a lot of work for us in the library and archives too. We were keeping the library open physically. We knew people still needed a place to be, and we knew we could do that. We felt we could do that safely in partnership with other experts at the university. But we also needed to run a robust online service because that's where our students were. So, let's see here. Let's make sure I'm talking into the microphone. So just a couple of things I want to mention before I start wrapping up. One is that we work very collaboratively. We are part of the U of M system. So often people will say, oh, do the libraries duplicate their holdings? A little bit. Sometimes there's some special things that U of M Flint or Dearborn, but we work together. We call it a tri-campus agreement. So there are things that, because Ann Arbor has such standing in the numbers, they can sometimes negotiate for all of us. Deals, I won't even get started on the business of academic publishing. But in any case, they can negotiate certain things. And the upshot of that is that our students and faculty have access to 90% of what they would have at a large research institution right here in Flint. And that's also available for our community if they come to the library. Again, there's restrictions on how we can make things available. But what an amazing resource for the city of Flint, for U of M Flint students. And that's all part of being part of the University of Michigan system. And we have several library endowments that are crucial to making those, managing and maintaining, there we go, those collections. People who have donated, we've been able to endow the funds and then use what we can spend each year from the endowments to though that's where we can say, okay, here's something that maybe the 3 campuses don't want, but this is our Flint faculty need this, or our Flint students need this. So those endowments are really critical and we appreciate them so much. It's a great way for people to, their gift lives on as years go by. Oops, I went too far. There we go. So now we're looking ahead. So as we think about what transformation means for the library, the University of Michigan plans has announced we're undergoing a strategic transformation, and that's university-wide. And we're all a little bit like, but also, hey, it's an opportunity. So what is this? What might this mean for the library? So one thing we talk about is it's very important at U of M Flint that we be part, that we're part of the community, that we're here for the community. But we're hearing from the community that, well, we're not sure if we see it. We also in the library think we've got an amazing public library, so what's our role versus what's our public library's role, our community college. However, what is it that we uniquely do at U of M Flint that will give back and serve our community? To me, if we figuring that out and talking about that, that's transformational because people are saying we want to see more of you. Continuing the strength of our online collections. That is somewhat transformational to us in libraries because when you think about the work that goes and the funds that go into those online collections, you know, there's plenty of money out there, but sometimes the amount you have can only go so far. So those online collections, knowing that the way people engage with universities is changing. 44% of our students are online only now. So that those really have to stay strong and available and findable and accessible. Thinking about, I love that you have this microphone here and we're cognizant of the people on Zoom and that everyone can hear. We think a lot about those things too. The resources are only as good as people being able to find them and use them. Affordable textbooks. I'm sure if any of you have people in your life that are in college, you know textbooks they're expensive. And so something that's really important to us in libraries is how can we keep that affordable? How can we support faculty in creating materials? How can we help faculty know what we have in our collections and how to use the textbooks? And ultimately, how do we make life a little easier for students? So that's something that we're looking at for the future. Part of it is these, we call them open educational resources, and those would be, it could be another textbook, but somebody created it and said, I don't need to make a profit from this. It's available, it's out on the web, take it and use it. They're amazing. They do take some work to create. And if you're a faculty member who's teaching a class, to make time in the midst of your teaching and having service and everything you have to do to write a textbook, well, it's not inconsiderable, but we feel we in the library can help support that by trying to maybe offering stipends that maybe, you know, come use our resources, let us connect you to the network. So that's something very much in our radar looking forward. And what a wonderful segue, growing our archives program. Our archives is one of a kind. Archives and special collections are what make libraries and archives unique, what put them on the map, because often what's in those collections is not available anywhere else. And it used to be the only way you could get to those was by coming to the building to use them. And still many people do, because if you're a researcher, sometimes just feeling the text, seeing it in its real life context, there's no substitute for it. But archivists do incredible work in making those materials available online too, so that they really can be available to anybody, anywhere. And we work with our colleagues so that you can put things in context. There's just amazing projects going on. So I think often the archives can get left out. I gotta watch myself. I'm from the library and archive. We are, you know, together, and our work supports, and we're better together. And so to remember, to help people remember that when you're thinking about the library, you think about owning the library and students studying in the library. Well, they come to study in the archives too, but the archives has different purposes. So making sure we focus on that and helping it promote, like, this is something really special about U of M Flint. So to me, transformational, and that we haven't done maybe the job of communicating about as much as we have, and that it has the opportunity to really bring so much to life about our community to people all over the world. So from there, I'll just say thank you. My contact information is here, and I'm going to turn it over to my wonderful colleague, Helen, my award-winning. I'll be around for questions.
Ditto. So I'm going to talk to you today about the Genesee Historical Collection Center. Has anyone ever visited the Genesee Historical Collection Center?
Yeah, we have a couple of people who've been wonderful. It is our archive at the Francis Wilson Thompson Library, as Jen covered. And it was established in 1976. It was actually the brainchild of Francis Wilson Thompson herself. She did a lot of work to create the archive. And she also created the Crapo Room. Has anyone ever seen the Crapo Room? So it's a Victorian sitting room in a modern library. If you come to the library, you come to the archives on the second floor, you'll pass it, and it's filled with things from the Crapo farm, the Henry Howland Crapo farm, including a giant music box that is very creepy, but cool to see. So it started with a lot of major collections early on. UAW 599, largest UAW chapter, closed unfortunately, but we have their records going back to the sit-down strike. Community Development Committee collection has been huge in the recent years, just because people are doing research on urban renewal and how it affected Flint, and these are the blueprints of what happened in Flint during that time period. Olive Beasley and Edgar B. Holt, if you know those names, big social and civil rights leaders here in Flint. We have all of their papers. Gildy, Regal, the probate records, which funny enough, the county was going to throw away and we rescued. They're very interesting because many of the probate records from the 1800s have big burn holes on them. And we wondered, where did those come from? Well, they were stored in an attic that also had a basketball court in it. I know. And the guys would go up there to play basketball and they'd leave their cigarettes on the edge of the probate record. So a bunch of them have been burned out. And then administration and U of M Flint records. So there's the history of the university that's very well kept there at the archive. Not the most popular collections, but hey. And then social clubs. Freemasons, we've just received their papers. Quota Club, Rotary Club, we have your stuff. So what I do is I focus on the accessibility of materials and creating an ease of research. So accessibility is the #1 gain in archive. There's this problem when people come into archives, they don't think they belong there. It's hard to get people just even over the threshold because you're going into a space that is, and none of the books circulate. They're all very old. We can't get more of them. So if something happens, that's it. So there's a lot of pressure on people when they approach an archive and really trying to break down those walls and make the community history actually belong to the community. We do digitized finding aids, which is something we hadn't done before I arrived. So the finding aids is a document that an archivist will write up that'll tell you what's in each collection. It's a folder list that's kind of broken down intellectually. And we have those online now. They're actually Googled. You can Google it and it'll pop up. Didn't have that before. We're also inviting the community into the archives in different ways, especially with oral history projects. Currently doing a very large oral history project of musicians in Flint. And oldest person I talked to was 99 years old. He's been playing jazz in Flint since he was 15. So those are kind of ways that we bring people in. We're currently also reprocessing and reformatting the collection. So it was, I came to this job 4 years ago. My predecessor had been there for 33 years. Some things had changed in archival sciences since then. So the more and more we bring things to the 21st century, the easier it is to find stuff. I'm still uncovering things that I didn't know. A good example of that, I opened up a box and found the women of the sit-down strike. They had caps and armbands, and we have a cap and armband from the sit-down strike. Didn't have that described anywhere. So these are the things that we're doing to improve access, just finding what we have. And then digitization has been huge. If you go to U of M Flint digital collections, you'll see all of our digitized materials. An exciting one we just recently got is the Ruth Winchell collection. Ruth Winchell was the very first female pilot out of Flint. And she married her flight instructor who owned the first airport in Flint, which was on Corona Road. And some of the photographs are incredible because they are aerial shots of Flint in the 30s. So it's really worth taking a look. So something that we talk about is community memory versus history. Archives, people think I'm an historian or that, that I synthesize history for people, and that's exactly the opposite of what I do. What I'm interested in is community memory, which is the raw pieces of history. So if you think of history, it's synthesized by, it's primary documents synthesized by professionals to make an argument. Community memory is just what we remember and how we express those memories. So stuff like journals, short remembrances, we have a ton of that kind of stuff at the archives, dating back into the 1800s. Scrapbooks are huge, lots of scrapbooks, photos, oral histories, videos, and recordings of people. It's all of the above, but again, synthesized by a professional. So there's the difference there. But right now, there's not a lot of secondary sources about Flint. We have a couple, but nothing that goes in depth to different areas. There's of course demolition needs progress. There's Chevy in the hole, but there's not a lot in the academic sphere. So some existing collections, like I said, the Freemasons. I'm very community oriented, and I actually walked down to the Freemasons when they were shutting up shop and said, "Hey, where's your stuff going?" And they said, "With you." So that's how we got the Freemasons. St. Paul's Episcopal and Ecumenical records were being stored in a basement next to a furnace. Now they are in the archive where it's climate controlled and they're in nice boxes. The local music collection, like I was saying, the local music collection was developed in the 1980s. When I came in, my predecessor said, "Oh, nobody cares about it. It's a shame, nobody cares about it." Well, I put the finding aid online, and all of a sudden people really started caring about it. We were involved in the documentary, you might have seen Breed and Bootleg, that was about rap in Flint. They just won an Emmy, so we were really excited to be part of that. And I decided to expand it. So nothing had been collected since the 90s. I went out and asked local musicians, "Hey, can I have some of your music? Oh, by the way, let's also do oral history. Oh, let's also add concert posters and ticket stubs and anything you can to create texture to this idea of music in Flint." And it's wildly successful. And then the historic postcard collection is really interesting because you have photographs and things from the 1800s. A really interesting one is the artisanal wells that used to be at Saginaw. Big water fountains that people would use that were just up from the street. And then Paul's Pipe Shop. If you didn't know, Paul's Pipe Shop is coming up on their 100th anniversary. They're also kind of looking to wind down. So we've started collecting their materials. And what's great about community collecting is that a lot of people say, "These are my memories, these are our memories. I don't want to give this to you." That's fine. I can digitize it. And now you have a copy and I have a copy, which is wonderful because people can hold on to their history. They don't feel like they're giving up to this university, this megalith that they might never see it again. But it still gets put out there. So we're processing their photographs right now. If you've ever been in the Paul's Pipe Shop in the second floor at the museum. So hopefully he'll also be giving us some pieces too. We're hopefully going to get some like mod, what's it called, pipes and things like that. So this is the actual area. So we have the reading room, which is full of books that you can't find anywhere else. Most of them are local history or just Michigan history. We don't collect Hewitt or GM. So what you're going to find here is stuff about social history, even like medical stuff, all kinds of different topics. And then you'll also see the actual stats, and those are climate controlled. Our fire suppression system, it has no water so that it actually like suppresses it with a powder. And the building is set up so that the archives are in the center of the building. So if something comes through the roof, we're fine. If water comes up from the bottom, we're fine. It's really planned out with permanent preservation in mind. Oh, and here are some of those probate records that are all burned up. And yeah, we have probate records going from 1839 all the way through 1920. We do not have any of the probate records that involve adoption, interestingly enough. Those are still under lock and key, which is very frustrating to my genealogy researchers. What can you do? Oh, and here's the Crapo room. We have the Crapo room. All the furniture was carved at Michigan School for the Deaf for the Crapo children. None of it's been reupholstered, but appropriate to the era. And it's a really cool room. And if you come see me on the second floor of the Francis Wilson Thompson Library, I'll even let you in it. I won't let you sit down on the chairs, but I'll let you take a look through. We also have like the family Bibles and just a ton of stuff from the Crapo family. So the great thing about donating materials, I'm going to make my pitch because people out there don't think that they're important to history and they don't realize what they have. So I want you to think about the records you have, the photographs, the letters, the journals, any of those things. And think about donating them to an archive because they are important. You think family photos, nobody wants these. But in reality, what we do is we take the names of all those people and record them in the photo so that 10, 20, 50 years from now, somebody comes looking for a photo of their relative, we'll have it. Not only that, but it's going to be photos of like if you're in front of your house, taking a photo of your house. People look for house histories or street histories, things like that. Again, we can digitize stuff so you don't have to give up your history. It's been a huge revelation in archives to be able to digitize and still be able to take away. And we also have emergency and disaster plans. So I have emergency kits. I actually wrote the disaster plan for the university. So your things are always safe if you do decide to donate physical items. Your things are always safe at the University of Michigan Flint. It allows for access to future generations and researchers, and you become a part of the collective history. You get a collection named after you, which is kind of a feather in your cap, and you're recognized in all of the digitization efforts and finding aids. So what we collect, I collect a lot of flat stuff. When I say flat stuff, it's going to be like that list shows, documents, photos, pamphlets, journals, letters, ledgers, things that were created for a short time period, like flyers and posters that for some reason you saved and still exist. That stuff's gold. Audiovisual materials, I've actually set up an audio lab in the archive to digitize. I can digitize everything from reel to reel, all the way to VHS. So anything and everything, almost. No 8-tracks, no Laserdisc. That's about it. Oh yeah, Betamax I have to send out for too, but it still works. And then the digital materials, anything born digital, you think this is an archival material because I wrote it up on a Word document. Not the case. That is a born digital archival material. Rare books, of course, yearbooks, phone directories, which people don't think of, but we do collect. And then physical 3D items, I don't collect a lot of because I am not a museum. I don't have a lot of display space. People want to give me things that they think they're going to be on display. That's just not the way it is. It's a reference more than display. And then there's always exceptions though. I love buttons, pins, small items. Like I said, the women have to sit down, strike caps, that kind of thing. The stuff we do not collect, large circulation newspapers, sorry, Flint Journal, you're probably doing all the archiving for that. I don't need to double effort. Books published by major publishers that are not Flint related. There's a lot of copies out there. We don't need them. Restricted for long periods of time. This is really touchy. So if you have something that you don't want people to see during your lifetime, I can restrict items up to 50 years because that's all I can guarantee that I will be around. I can't even guarantee I'll be around for that long. So I only limit to 50 years, but that is an option. And then plaques, awards, and trophies, those are very nice, but those are for you. And there's always exceptions to the rule. So if you have something you think would be very interesting for the historic record, just ask. So here's where you can ask me about your historic record. And yeah, I'm happy to take any questions you might have about archives, archival material, or if you're interested in donating, please come and see me.
My question is, what are some of the, say, the top 5 subject areas that people use your archive information?
Definitely city development and city progress. So like you said, sorry, my brain just turned off for a second. Yeah, demolition in progress with the urban renewal is number one. People really are coming in hard for urban renewal work. Then it would be UAW 599 for sure. Huge one. Let me think. Those are the two biggest movers right now. And then all of Beasley. A lot of scholars working on all of Beasley, especially students. Not as many on Edgar B. Holt, but I'm trying to get them into it. It's fascinating.
Two facts, Joel and then Marie.
Just a quick story. 30 years ago, I was a reporter at Channel 12, and I covered the opening of the Thompson Library. And I remember two things. First, that huge curved building was just so impressive right next to the river. It's beautiful, it still is. The other was Mrs. Mott was there. So I thought, oh, I gotta interview her, you know? And, you know, you get to somebody, and I'm like, am I gonna ask her? And among the things I asked her about was auto room. You know, it was after the regular time.
I've got so much out of world stuff.
But anyway, I'm sure that.
I've got out of world tumblers, pamphlets. They made everything for Auto World. All the tchotchkes. I have 6 boxes of tchotchkes from Auto World. I don't. I have stuff from individual families, especially Arabic families in the area,
I
but
need to find the internet for it goes back 100 years.
yeah.
There is a lot.
And it's come up actually a couple of times with the urban renewal research. People have been looking for the international.
Talking about that, book that the mayor now has my copy of it. And it's the history. of-
St. John. Yep, I've got 2 copies of that too. Yep.
All right, let's give our thanks for. They would be available after, so feel free to speak to them then as well. I also want to thank our Rotarians in service this week, so that includes Alan Brothers for our speaker introduction, Lynn for that very timely and thoughtful inspirational message, Terry, thanks for your setup at Takeoff Day, and Joel for doing the bulletin notes. As a reminder, we will not be here next Friday. In honor of Veterans Day, we will instead have our alternate gathering for those who wish to join at the White Horse. Per usual, it helps us have a little head count. If you think you might be attending, would you mind raising your hand, and we'll make sure that we have a seat for you. Unit the White Horse. One. Okay, I got 15. All right, so, yes, Jerry,
Oh, no,
you're good.
Yeah.
All right, so I got 15. So thank you so much for being here. I'll give a special thank you for Al Tucker, our assistant district governor, who joined us here today. Victor George, it's lovely to have you as a visitor and you as a member. And thank you so much, everyone. Remember, take today's Rotary inspiration with you, and to also imagine Rotary, what it means for you, your community, and your world. With that, we're adjourned.